Good.
Me to do it?
You're the chair.
All right, let's start this meeting. We're going to stand and recite the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't know, do we need a roll call?
I've got it.
Okay.
Noted. Who all's present?
All right, this meeting is regards to the debt service fund, water and sewer. Karen has given us where we're at, the cash balance, which is $672,297.78. The estimated October billing revenue, conservative, $77,000. Estimated amount available to make future payments, $749,297.78. If the loan pay off in 5 payments would be $730,838.20. And then the estimated balance in the debt fund would be $18,459.58. So
So,
it's open to discussion, I guess.
I mean, the gist of all this is we need to determine what to do with the debt service fund or charge and fund. Seeing as how after this current quarter, we should have enough to pay off the loan. If you remember back to the council meeting, Karen talked about, we do have the ability to send the lump sum in for payment, but they're just gonna hold it in escrow and draw the payments out on their due dates. So rather than them holding it and making whatever interest, why don't we hold it, continue to make the payments and draw whatever interest we can. So I think we're all in agreement that that makes the most sense. We just continue to make the final 5 payments on the loan schedule as planned. So the options, with that in mind, that the loan is gonna be paid off, we have the money on hand to do it after this quarter's billing. Now's the time we need to decide what to do with the debt service. Remove it completely, reduce it, leave it alone. If you reduce it or leave it alone, we have to reclassify the use of the funds. It's no longer debt service. One of the things being talked about is changing it from debt service into capital improvement, or whatever you want to call it, some kind of capital improvement fund that would allow, building up the water and sewer funds for improvements in the system.
And one thing to remember, these are enterprise funds. So this money only stays within the water and sewer department. It does not go to the general fund.
Right. Mary had put together a breakdown of the accounts and discovered too late, as of today actually, that they aren't adding up quite right. But roundabout, I think we probably have closer to 1,200 residential accounts. She's got 1,005 on there. I think there's more than that, because our total, Nate and I were talking about this earlier, I think we're closer to 1,400 tabs in the system, and this comes up to like 12 something, 1,200 if you add all those up. So anyway, just for discussion's sake, we've got around 1,000, 1,200 residential accounts that are currently being charged $45 a quarter. The next line is 135 commercial accounts that are at 45. Those are accounts that use 15,000 gallons of water or less per quarter. And then the next step would be 15,001 gallons and up, bumps it up to $90 debt service. The final, it's a typo, it should be industrial accounts. There should be 6 of those at 180. The one at 360 is Amish Wedding Foods. They just have 2 accounts at one location, so they broke it out that way. So there's really 6 industrial accounts at 180. That's the breakdown. I don't know, is there any, I've talked enough, you guys can.
I'll give you my opinion. Number one, real estate reevaluations. Everybody's taxes are going to go up on their property. Number two, if the fire levy passes, for a $200,000 house, that's going to mean an additional almost $300 a year on the real estate taxes. Number three, the poverty level in Millersburg is increasing. So I'm in favor of eliminating the debt service charge completely.
In doing anything with capital improvements?
But we'd have to seek money some other way as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think the only way to get it is through that.
Correct me,
That's not true.
correct me if I'm wrong, Nate. To go after grant funding for any type of infrastructure improvement on water or sewer side, our rates are on the low side. I mean, we might be able to get a few grants, but to get any substantial grants, they're gonna tell us our rates are too low. And I believe if you notice in the packet, Nate handed out where we compare to some other municipalities in a survey that was done a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah, our rates are on the low end.
I mean, if you look at Loudonville, Nate, what was your total you came up with Loudonville per quarter?
Yeah, they break theirs out a little different. They go by 1,700 gallons, so I used 5,100 to get close to our $5,000 or 5,000 gallon minimum. At their rates, you'd be at 176.25 per quarter, where we're at 110 per quarter. So we're on the lower end there. As far as I know, the county is still at $56 a month for sewer. So you're at, what, 168 a quarter just for sewer on the county systems. I don't know if they've raised that. They may, I don't know. That's an older number that I was just aware of. But then if you look at this was an Ohio Rural Water rate survey that was done in 2018. So obviously these have probably all increased over the last 4 years. And it is based on 22,500 gallons. It's not based on 5,000 gallons, but still you can see where we stack up. We're second low on water and third low on wastewater. Shreve's on there, Killbuck's on there. They're both on the upper mid level.
A lot of them do monthly billing as well. We don't do that,
Right.
so that's gonna add to the cost.
So,
Well, they're gonna have to have all of the administrative costs of
oh, their
monthly
cost,
billing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're gonna have administrative costs of monthly billing, which we
Versus-
don't
right,
have versus
right.
quarterly.
Right.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I guess, you know, we're having a discussion, and I agree that the debt service needs to go away. We then need to evaluate whether or not we need to do anything with capital improvements for this water and sewer plants. This is a separate, to me, it's a separate issue, because I think we all know from our budgets that we're always slashing stuff from the water and sewer. Now, I understand it's a wish list, but it's like anything, if you're not maintaining it as you go, you got a big bill at some point in the future. If your foundation's falling, at some point you gotta pay the piper with big numbers. I don't know the answer to that question, whether or not there's enough here to justify some kind of capital improvement or not. I guess I'm depending on Nate to give us,
Yeah, I would like to hear from
Feed-
Nate what's
feedback
critical and what the money, how much money would be needed for future.
As far as that, for future, it'd be you seen, we tried to hire out Worcester Road, just that little section water line. It's hard to put a finger on the cost and stuff. You know, if you were to, say, keep the debt service, that may be something you could use to fund some of those infrastructure, such as Worcester Road or something of that nature. Or at the very least have a match to go after a grant,
Mhm.
would be my
That-
two.
Yeah, that'd be one of the big things, would just provide match money for grants, makes you more competitive if you have more match, local match, that you score better on every grant I've ever seen. The more we have in the game, you just score better, makes you more competitive. That Worcester Road is an anomaly, I hope, that went 3 times cost in a year's time because of the pandemic and all that's related to that. I'm hoping that would change at some point, but nothing's getting cheaper as far as materials, services, and chemicals, everything we do. All our costs are going up as well.
You know, something that we could look at is reducing it down. You know, right now residential is 45. So let's say we drop that down to 20. You know, commercial would drop from 90 to 50 and industrial from 180 to 110, or whatever combinations someone would be interested in.
The problem with that is, it's not our money.
Can I ask a question? So, where do you pull the $20? Because we're not apples to oranges, but this fire district thing, I'm more upset about that than I am the $15 a month. But when you pull a number and you say, where do you get that? Well, we'll just put it down to 20. I mean, do you have an idea? To me, you have okay, so I asked for things about how much is in different, improvement things. So do you have an idea, well, this is how much, I know you can't know exactly what something's gonna cost, but can you figure out, you know, how much that may cost based on within the, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've lived here 23 years, I don't know how many times I've heard something's gonna get replaced, and that goes on, and now it costs more. So things didn't always get replaced when, that was there. So do you see my point? I'm listening, and I'm more than, like I said, I was all fired up about this until I saw how much my property tax. Then all of a sudden, I hate to say this, but $15 a month, nothing compared to the $200 extra I'm gonna pay for the fire department, who just put a 4-mil thing on and didn't even think about. So when I hear you say 20, you're just throwing out a number.
It's just a number, that's,
Okay,
but what
it
I'm
has to
saying,
have that
What-
number has to have, how do you know 20 is gonna be enough? Well,
I'm-
21 is enough, I'm gonna decide.
no, I'm
Now
not,
we gotta ask
what I'm
for
saying is it starts building the capital improvement fund that Tom had mentioned, so we can start building
Then
that
why
fund.
not say 10?
I guess
It can
what
be
I-
whatever council decides. It's just a number I used, it's just to show, okay, yes, we want to build up our capital improvement or capital fund to do infrastructural replacement. So we're not gonna keep the whole $45.
I
We're-
understand that, but
okay.
you have to have a reason when you pick the number.
Well,
And so how did 45 ever get? Explain to me how when it was decided to be 15 a month, how did you know that was gonna be enough? Do you understand what I'm
Right.
asking?
yeah, at the time, they knew what the loan amount was.
Okay.
So they took that and basically did a loan amortization backwards
Okay.
based on the number of users at the time with a growth factor. And honestly, I'm pretty impressed that 20 years
Yeah,
ago,
that it did.
they hit it pretty close.
Yeah.
And you can't project,
I understand that,
exactly
but
what-
within reason.
yeah, but
You see
so,
what I'm saying?
it's
You
very-
can't just say $20 and then say, well, we still don't have enough. Sorry, we're gonna have to redo it or legislation.
Well, I don't-
We're gonna need more.
I don't think we could realistically put a capital improvement charge on that would fund everything we need to do.
So then what is it? So realistically, you can't.
So I think the thought is get something going to do more than we're able to now. If we were to, just for last year's budget, for instance, water, we turn in a list, Nate and I turn in a list of things we'd like to address. that total was 121,000. It got cut by 93,000 for this year's current budget. Sewer, we turned in a list totaling $236,000 worth of improvements, cut 199.5 off of it. And Jeff came up with this just as starting points.
That's all it is.
You know, if you go to 20, 50, and 110, that would generate about $27,000 a quarter, which, you know, you'd be around 100 grand a
Is
year.
that enough?
No.
Well, that's my
That's
point.
not-
That's not gonna be enough, so you're taking the money, it ain't gonna be enough.
It's more than we have now, and like I said, I don't think you can ever make it enough to do everything we wanna do.
I mean, the Worcester
'Cause
Road water,
people would be paying far more now than they are, or paying more than they are now, I should say.
I mean, the Worcester Road water line, we started around 200,000,
2.25.
and now it's up to 600.
So let me ask you a question, why was that not able, and I'm just asking, why was that not able to be done at $200 and some thousand? What happened that it ended up not being able to be done and now it's costing 600?
Because supply
Yeah.
has increased that much this year.
Why wasn't it?
It wasn't in that budget.
We didn't have the funding.
It wasn't in that budget.
So we're gonna run into this all over the place, we're gonna run into this.
Everything's gonna keep going
I
up.
mean, that's my eyes roll over because when I go down to District 1, I gotta hear that. So it's like, how much more can I hear? So everything costs more, paying everybody costs more, doing this costs more, the uniforms cost. I'm not, I understand, but it's it's costing me
Right.
more too. A bag of green beans was $1, now it's $1.88. So, you know, I don't, you know.
But you understand what we're saying, right now, this money, we can't use for capital improvement, so let's say we got zero. So we use this $100,000 that we're talking about, that's $100,000 we can now leverage against going grant funding to help to score higher in order to get more outside funding to pay for these projects. Because right now, we don't have that leverage.
Before the debt service, how did things get paid for?
Grant.
When did we start the wish list program?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years
More.
ago?
That was before my.
See, and that, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we always identified things in departments that we needed to improve.
I mean, there's always going to be things that need to be improved. The problem is, we don't have a line item in the budget for capital improvements. We haven't had that in there, and why not? Because we're busy buying this truck and spending money on this and doing that we have never, ever planned for the future, which is where we are right now.
They addressed this 3 years ago during campaign.
Now we're talking about capital improvements and planning for the future, because now there's a $45 that we're talking about. But we should have been doing this in the budget all along. We should be doing in the budget improvements for this building, because it looks terrible. There's so many things that we should be planning for future. We have $0 for the strategic initiative. Zero. There was nothing in the budget to help pay for the strategic initiative.
I don't know that we knew what that was going to look like.
Right, but even at that, right now, zero. So it doesn't even matter what it was going to look like. We knew that it was coming for the past 3 years, and we have no money saved for it.
Well, I think that's what the point of this discussion is a place to start saving
Yeah,
money.
so we need to start in the budget. We shouldn't be starting with people who are paying double for their groceries, and their dollars are getting less and less and less out there, and now here we are saying, you know what, we're gonna pay that off, but we're gonna keep collecting this, because that $100,000 is really gonna help us, when we have a $4 million budget that we don't plan for the future with.
but you gotta remember,
This-
water and sewer does not operate on the general fund.
Right.
That's
I
the,
know that.
I mean,
And
the other,
their fund gets
the-
less and less every
the-
single year.
the other option is raise the rates.
Well, then maybe that's something we need to look at. I think that is being more honest with the public than continue to collect something and just reroute it somewhere else.
Well, we're not gonna continue to collect the debt service. I think
Yeah.
our recommendation from this committee is to do away with debt service. The discussion now is how do we raise money for capital improvement? I would rather see us raise money for capital improvement than just do a broad stroke, we're gonna increase rates. Let's identify what we need to improve, and then let's set a number as best we can to do that.
And
If-
let's do
if
that
we-
through the budget. Can we not do that through the budget?
But each year we're cutting things that he can't afford anyhow. So we have to come up with some additional funds if we want to take some of the things off this list.
So let's go for an example of when we talked about a rate raise. Let's do it like this. We contract, and this just, you know, is one of those other things giving PTSD. We contract with Kimball at a certain amount, and it goes up. That will build a little bit because things are going up. I can handle that for some reason. Psychology, you know what I mean? So I guess if it was that my water rate was gonna, because of that, I guess I could probably handle that better. Then I feel like I'm just giving this $15 a month. Do you see what I can,
Okay.
we accept rate changes in our electric bill, we accept rate changes in our gas bill. So I'm thinking I might be able to handle, that I handle better than this debt service charge. And for every reason, we don't trust where it's going. For some reason, we just don't, because we were always told to go away. And whether that should have ever been said, that's what never should have, I used to say, is this ever, nobody thinks it. It's never gonna go away. So it's almost a mind that we weren't being told the truth. A rate change, like I said, I accept that in my I accept that in every utility I have, my rate changes. So I think people could maybe
Okay.
accept that.
I guess, I would be interested then to have Nate run the numbers,
Okay,
to say, okay, this is what our rates would be
yeah,
to generate this amount of money based on $20 a quarter, let's say. You know, how much are our rates gonna go up? Are they gonna go up $10, $15, $30 a quarter? I mean, we'd have to run the calculation to determine that.
but you understand what I'm saying?
Right, I do.
Accepting rate changes already in utilities. I
If-
went through
But if you're
exchange
gonna generate $20, then your rate's gonna go up $20. I mean,
Right, I would think, I don't know, Nate, do you think in order to generate, let's say, $100,000 in rate increase, I guess, how much would the average bill go up quarter? I mean, we gotta do the numbers.
Yeah.
But I think that
Right.
might make sense if you do it that way.
But from the same aspect, I personally would like to have us look at our minimum charges. I mean, just minimum is $110 for 5,000 gallons or less. I know there are some people, I mean, that's even high. I would like to see us restructure our lower ends to help those folks out also. But I mean, it's going to take some work to get those numbers.
Yeah.
I've been after Nate probably for several months now. I would like to see us hire a grant writer. That person could be here, working with them, also assisting if anybody else needs help, perusing everything that's available out there for us. I mean, there's so many things we miss. It may not be something we're looking for right now, but tomorrow those funds could be available for it. And I really think it'd be worthwhile.
I think Carol knows. She knows. No, she did get it. I agree with that.
I went to the meeting out at the fairgrounds that the commissioners had, and I was surprised. I didn't know the United States Department of Agriculture has money available. I mean, it's usually a loan. How much would it cost to borrow so much to complete some of our projects? You know, if that was the $20 went to. Something to explore.
But you'd be back to the same thing, is if you borrow money to do infrastructure improvement, somehow you gotta have a debt fee to pay that on.
Right.
Basically, you're right back to where we are today.
Right, yeah, we are. But could that amount be less
Yeah.
than where we're at?
But you'd also have another loan for an additional 20 years.
Yeah, suggestion.
Are we done with trucks for a while, Nate?
Are we?
Yeah.
I mean, we're done as long as, everything else getting older.
Well, everything's getting older all the time, but
Um,
that's a huge issue when we do the budget,
mhm.
is because we have to divide it, water and sewer, and then there goes a bunch of money that, you know, you guys could be using for other things.
Currently our trucks, we have an 04 and an 05, so they're both approaching 20 years, I guess, 19. So yeah, we could be done with them for a little bit, but unfortunately, I think eventually it's just an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
So I have the, ordinance that got passed in 2004, and I just had so Devon, you voted no. Do you remember why you said no on this debt service thing? What were you worried about, or what was your?
Because I thought too much was spent at the wastewater treatment plant, that there were things that weren't necessary.
Okay, appreciate it. I'm not interested, you were the only one that said no. Most of the people aren't on there. Jeff was on council then, but you were the only one that, the rest of the people are gone. But I thought that was interesting. Appreciate it.
Are there things that you could cut back on now? Ways that you could be saving money down there, Nate?
I can explore, every chemical company will call me back, I've tried for prices to save money.
That's good.
Electric, we're doing the best that we can as far as conserving that. Electric's probably our main expense now. Our sludge hauling, another big one, but with the septic, the sludge comes, you know, so it's kind of, there's no real way around that one. Quit taking septic, of course, but then that's a
Right.
revenue stream that you're gonna lose.
Right.
I don't know, I mean, we can certainly try to crunch the numbers, but we're fixing things daily, piecing it together, keep stuff going, as cheap as we can. We're fortunate to have a couple of very talented guys on the staff that can do a lot of our pump repairs in-house, it's saving us a great deal.
That's good.
But I really don't know, I'd have to really look at it,
You're already doing it. Good. I'm glad that you're
I brought a
being proactive with that.
we had a company contact us and I brought them down, took them to all of our facilities. They went through every building, looking for energy efficiency things, lighting, heating, cooling, down the sewer plant, pumps, motors, blowers. They ran all the numbers. They came back and said, we really don't have any programs to offer you. You've already done what you can.
That's great.
I mean, it's unfortunate. It'd be great if we could have, well, it's a good thing that we're doing what we did. But it'd be nice too if we had a way to pay for upgrades of things through energy programs that just doesn't qualify for because we've done what we can already. So.
I just think transparency is and I just think that people are they just need to understand it, that's all. And I just think, like I said, you know, it's a utility, I have to accept what the electric company tells me my rate's gonna go up to, I think people can accept it. I just think that it was all those years of people thinking it was gonna go away. And then it's just stuck in this thing in our heads, you know, that it's not gonna go away.
So do you think it's more palatable if debt service goes away and a capital improvement charge goes
Yeah,
on?
you may have to rename it, you may have to.
Well,
I think it's
it'll
more
have to be-
palatable for the debt service to go away and just raise the rates.
Okay,
Don't add
That's what I
on
said.
another line.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Just raise the rates
That's what I
and
was-
And you
say,
gotta pay, that's the rate, what are you gonna do? I
We
don't pay my electric. you're gonna-
everything else is going up, people are gonna understand that, but if you add a line item in there, and people are gonna be like, wait a minute, what the heck is this now?
yeah.
Just raise the rates and then they know, oh, okay,
Yeah.
all the water's going up.
My electric went up, my gas went up, I just think for whatever, how our brains are working, cause you don't have an option. But when you think that something was gonna go away, and it
And then
could be,
it just-
you know what could be, we're shooting yourself in the foot. The rate could end up being, but we trust
Well,
it better.
I guess that's, to me,
But we trust
it's-
it, for some reason it's then if you can show,
it's six
I
and a half
guess.
dozen the other.
So Kelly and Andrea, I have a question for you too. Did you see the rates, the breakdown in the
I
rates?
have seen them.
It's
in the past.
really quite
It's a big
interesting.
difference,
It's a
yeah.
huge difference.
Yeah, it is. And we do have very cheap, I've delivered the water bills in Shreve. The average water bill in Shreve a month is $39 per month.
Month, yeah.
So if you look at,
I understand that our water bills are very cheap.
so
Yeah.
is that one of the reasons why maybe you're suggesting to raise that rate?
I would rather see the rate raised than to add some unknown line item that people don't understand. I would rather just know, okay, hey, my water bill's going up, you know, things are more expensive, I get it. I would much rather that happen than to add some unknown line item that now I have to explain to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's gonna call me on the phone and wanna know what it's all about.
And to me,
Well-
but to me, that, if there's a capital improvement line item, that's being more transparent to them as opposed to
That's
just
what
a
it would say
blanket.
on the bill.
Yeah,
It would say capital
We
improvement.
could-
Well, then,
yeah.
That'd be better than
this
debt
is the
service.
problem you're gonna have with that. Well, I want mine fixed here. I wanna see some capital improvement if I'm gonna be paying for it. That's what we're gonna get.
sure.
We can't fix everybody's all over the village at the same time,
No,
you know?
No,
And that's what
absolutely.
people are gonna expect. They're gonna want, well, 2 years ago, I had shit backing up in my basement, and now, you know, now this is on here and I'm paying it, so I want my stuff fixed first. I just think it's gonna go over. People will take it much better if we just have a raise in the rates.
Or show the difference, like you're saying.
So
To
you
get
would
to that
rather,
money, the rate raise, if it's cheaper for the debt service, I don't know. Do the people get any, we don't get any say in this, we can't vote on this before. So we're counting on you all to get us, to use our money the best way to get to them. So you have to be transparent about it, so.
and that's what
So
I was
if you
saying, to me, if you show me,
If you
as
show-
a user,
As a user,
my rates are this, but there's a whatever dollar amount capital improvement charge, and you can put an
I
explanation
think
on it
it's
that,
right. I think
that
people should
says
get to-
these
I
go
think they
towards main
Yeah.
replacements, meter replacements.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, identify what we need to fix.
Absolutely.
And then do it. And then if we're not applying our money,
I agree.
well, with the exception if something breaks, I mean, you gotta,
Emergencies are emergencies.
emergencies are emergencies, but I think we should,
But if we're raising $100,000 a year, it's gonna take us 6 years to fix Worcester Road.
Not necessarily, because now you got that money to leverage
Mhm.
to secure grant funding.
Yeah, while I understand
I
that,
mean-
it's still, I mean, we have multiple projects that need done here in the village that are gonna take years. And this new line item is going to seem like, okay, we have this here, it is never going away. That is what's never going away.
well, neither is the rate increase
Well,
you're
that's
talking
true.
about,
Rate
and we've
increase
not,
is-
and we've
he's
not
right.
identified
He's
anything
right.
we're doing.
So even if the capital.
But
And if you,
you're
and are you
paying
gonna
for your
raise,
water
are you gonna
bill-
raise the rates enough to generate $600,000 in a year to do one project?
No,
We couldn't afford it.
Well, exactly.
but you're dollars to raise water bill either.
Well, I will say this though, that if you raise the rates and people can't pay their water bills, then you're,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is the beginning of the discussion for this, not the end of the
Oh, yeah.
discussion.
I agree.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
I
I,
agree.
yeah,
and I think we need to identify what we need to fix and then
yeah,
look at doing a
transparent.
capital improvement fund based on those facts that we discuss. And,
The problem is that there are so many things that need fixed.
but it doesn't matter if you, I'd rather identify what we're gonna do and have it out there, this is what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
than just do a
Yeah.
blanket, here, you know, we're gonna increase your water bill by 20%.
Yeah, that's-
No comment, no idea what we're gonna do.
I didn't know about if all those projects, I didn't know about the project from, historic, the Victorian House.
Mhm.
Those those projects, we need to know, and it is about being transparent, it really is. I
Well,
mean,
we talk about them at council meetings.
I'm the
and
only one that ever comes to council.
If the media doesn't pick it up, what do we
Well,
do?
yeah, the media needs to, they,
That's one of the frustrations, is we
Yes.
do talk about these things and then people don't know anything about it. It's
Yeah.
not because we're trying to hide anything, it's, we put it out there.
I agree, people they'll complain.
Or they don't go to the source themselves to get the true facts.
Well,
They,
that
they
too.
jump at other conclusions on
Yeah.
other,
Well, they'll
Avenues
get their
of
facts
news.
from social media.
Right.
I don't how to do social
So on the
media.
internet, it has to be true, right?
Right,
I've heard that.
right, right. I've heard a lot about myself I never knew.
I would be in favor, I guess with a bargain hunter, to have a weekly column, what is happening, what legislation's been passed, and it just doesn't have to be Millersburg, it can be countywide. And the cleanup of Killbuck Creek is another example. It just died in the air, but something is happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
See, I guess now that the bargain hunter's doing a midweek
They are
newspaper.
Wednesday. Yeah, they're putting
Yeah.
police reports and everything.
Okay, so my question is, okay, what if we talk to Dave Mast and we submit the council pack to him? Let him run a story based off the minutes.
I think that's a good idea.
It's a great
Yeah.
idea.
I think that's great.
You know, because now they're gonna become more of a newspaper midweek versus
Yeah,
the weekend.
I think that's a great idea.
Because bargain hunters never attended a meeting,
I think that's a great idea.
so.
Get it out there.
Yeah, and if we gotta deliver it twice, might as well have something good in it, that's why.
So, I mean, we need to
Yeah.
have a decision made by when, Nate?
Well,
Well, the decision we need to have
the
made is
28th.
doing away with the debt service at this point, right?
it needs to,
One,
by the last meeting in November,
28th is
Well,
what
she
I
wanted to
have.
have 3 readings, October 24, so if a decision was made prior to the
I guess what I'm
October
saying is,
24 meeting.
if Nate can gather the information by next council, this is what a rate increase would do to generate a 20 or whatever number you
a
guys
rating,
decide.
yeah,
You know, versus a $20 capital improvement line will generate this much, how much of a rate increase would it take to generate the same amount of funding?
so is
But aren't
everybody
you
in agreement?
talking, but, am I confused here, aren't you talking the same amount of money anyhow?
You are.
So why not just look at the capital improvement and
That's
forget
fine.
about the rate increase?
I mean, 6.5 one, I mean, it's the same, exact same thing.
But I would rather people know
Right.
what we need to spend money on than just doing a rate increase.
Here's my question, once you have a line item of a capital improvement, is that forever then?
It's gonna be forever.
But a rate increase is forever too.
Well,
But-
the line item's always gonna, there's one in
There's
the
And it would be
budget.
on our water, on our bill would
It's
say,
additional
instead of debt
funding.
service, it would say, like that Muskego watershed, $2, I was assuming that's never,
Yeah.
that's $2. So it would always be there. But the people would be able to understand that would be the,
Council could drop it at any time if they wanted or amend it,
but you're always gonna need to do things. But yeah, I think you need to show.
realistically, yeah.
But each year at the budget, we can identify those things and you know where your money's going.
It could change or go lower or higher, is my question.
Yeah,
If it-
absolutely.
I mean, if we'd have to do
Because a rate change
a
won't.
expansion of the plan, I mean, that's gonna be major.
So you can be more flexible with what you're asking the people to pay on a capital improvement line than you would be, because once a rate changes, then that's it.
No,
Oh, a rate,
they would change the same way. It's a
Okay.
legislative
okay.
act by the council to change rates, or it would, yeah, either way, it's gonna be the same. And,
But it would be based on needs and not just a
right,
dartboard.
Yes, yes.
Nate, are water and sewer paying for themselves, or are we losing money every year?
On water and sewer,
Yeah.
they're self-funding.
Are-
Actually, sewer, I believe, is making money.
yeah, we've not lost money.
Okay, that's good.
Water's low,
But,
the fund balance is low, but it's not negative by any means. Yeah, they're enterprise funds, so they support themselves.
Basically, the rates are enough to cover current expenses.
Yep.
It's just not enough to cover capital improvement work. Is that better? way
That
to put it?
makes sense.
Yeah,
So it
So-
would take a while for the rates to go up. If we
right.
add this capital improvement line item in, then it would still be a while before we would raise the rates, yes or
Sure.
no? Yes?
Sure. Yep. So yeah, for instance, this year's budget, after everything that has to be, you're paying your people, your insurance, your chemicals, electric, all that stuff. Council saw fit to give 28,000 in capital improvement items for water and 36,500 in sewer. So, I mean, they're obviously not broke if you can do that, right? And what I was saying earlier was the list that were submitted totaled way more than that. That's where we're coming from, that let's start building that so we can do more of them.
Hey, what did you say, the estimated balance, in the debt fund, 18,000, almost 500,000, or 18,500?
459, yeah.
Yeah, where does that have to stay? Has to stay,
You guys would determine where that would go, I believe, by legislation. I'm not 100% sure on that, because I know some funds, you have to get a court order as if you want to move money out of, like if, like an estate fund, if we had the DeHaas estate for years. I believe that was one. Do you remember, Tom, Devon, and Jeff?
But I was thinking this fund, there's something we have to go through
There's a process.
to move this money, let's say, into a capital improvement fund.
Yeah.
There's some hoops
Yeah. There's
we
a
have to go
procedure.
through,
that-
yeah, right.
And I mean, that's really where that money
I mean,
should go at
basically,
the end
that'd
of the
just be
day.
seed money.
you think it should go to the capital?
Yeah,
Yeah. A good place to start.
I mean, that's what it was generated for, was for the capital improvement of the
Right.
sewer
Yeah.
plant, so let's just, whatever remains. And I'm assuming until the debt's paid, we're not gonna do anything with that fund at all, until,
No,
until the
Yeah,
final
it'd be
payment's done
like
and we know.
5 years out.
Well, so,
Yeah.
no,
Or,
2.5 years.
5,
2.5 years.
yeah. 5 payments out, I should say.
Honestly, the timing of all this stuff happening to us, it's all of it. It's this, the debt, it's this, the property tax, I mean, it's all.
Well,
it's
You're
too
right,
much.
Andrea. I
It's
mean,
too
yeah,
much. It
it's,
is
it
too much.
is.
It's
It
too much, and
stinks.
they should have, we were supposed to, that letter was supposed to get mailed out to everybody. I made sure it got on the person's name, the Frank was mentioned, but anyway, it's on there. And I was disgusted by, our property taxes are going up anyway, they were gonna get more money anyway.
What kind of interest, do you have any idea
I
what the
don't.
interest would be?
No, but whether it be $1 or $100, we might as well collect the interest
Right,
instead of the,
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
it was just part of a curiosity.
I don't
Yeah, I'm not
Anything
sure.
else?
That's something I was gonna say. Oh, I think we're all in agreement, debt service is going away. I mean, that
Right.
has to happen. Does that make
right,
sense?
because
Yes,
there's no
that
sense in
makes
growing
sense.
this fund any
That
higher
makes
Right.
sense.
than what it needs to be.
It's just
How
a matter of, do you change it, or do we just start the whole conversation about, do you call it capital improvement or just change the rates?
Right.
Personally, I mean, you're doing the same thing, so whatever makes most sense to people is fine.
I think from transparency, it needs to be capital
That's all
improvement.
that's what I think. I just think
I would
it has to be
agree.
transparency.
And if we can come up with some idea of capital improvements to start with that we need to do, so that we can come up with
A ballpark
I mean,
number to
halfway
reach.
informed, I mean, we can't
Yeah.
sit here with the crystal ball and look, but at least get an idea
Oh, yeah.
of
Which
what.
one has to get done next? Is it the one from the historic, I mean, would you have one that's gotta get done?
As far as water, yeah, the Worcester Road
Yeah,
water
one
line
has to get
keeps
done.
us
So people,
up.
I didn't know about that,
Yeah,
so, make, and it needs done.
that one, we've had multiple breaks on it, and
Yeah. Got traffic backed up.
that's one that's always on our minds.
You know, and people need to understand that when they're complaining, they can't get through because something happens, and somebody don't have their water. So that's the thing with, they're mad about the disruption. If something happens, all of a sudden, we plan to give them money, we plan it out, the road gets, and people know it's gonna get fixed.
Yeah,
But then we just have to be thankful we're not Flint, Michigan.
100%.
And then we have no water.
Absolutely.
Somebody else just got in trouble with letting their water, versus on the news, there was another like Chicago or something.
Georgia, there's.
Yeah, yeah.
Down here in Georgia.
Yeah, letting their water.
Oh, another thing that we've been working on, just to plant the seed, lead service lines. EPA, there's a big push from federal level that every system has to identify every lead line and replace all of them within
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember the time, we had to do a certain percentage per year?
Of the
That
debt.
computer program that you have, does that tell which lines are lead maybe?
The ones we know,
Oh, the ones we know
The rest of them,
are.
I presume, but they actually want us to physically dig them up, 18 inches on each side of each valve.
And
Then
replace
apply
them.
material.
1,400 valves.
and as of right now, that it appears that it's our responsibility to do this.
They're demanding it, but it's our problem.
So if anybody wants to make a huge donation, we'll take it.
Go to DPA, yeah.
Community service, I'll take it.
So first, we're gonna have to, if it stands as it is now, go through every service line in town that we don't know 100%, and show what it is. Every lead one, then we'll have to come back and start replacing
People
them.
need to know that too.
And I would assume a project
Those are gonna
that
be
that
huge
size, we're looking at subbing that out, correct? I mean, that's gonna be a lot of work.
It's gonna be,
Yeah.
depending on the number, it's gonna be a lot of work.
They were wanting that by 2024.
Oh,
So,
Did you laugh at
I
him? I hope you did.
I was speechless at the time.
Yeah.
What do you replace them with, PEX or?
Plastic,
Plastic.
yeah,
Here's the deal, you gotta trust your local government.
polyethylene.
Thank God, people don't understand they give this opportunity to come in, that people are idiots. Because you can't do that with the federal, you can't, so that if you can't, that's why the local government has to be transparent.
Right,
Because if people need to know, they can at least trust where they live, and they can know the truth where they live. And then I think people are willing to give they're more willing to accept what they have to do when they can trust that.
well, they can see where their
They can
money's
see it.
going.
Yeah.
And if they choose not to, then that's on them.
But then every single one of us, when we get phone calls, we can
Well-
say, we have a $600,000 Worcester Road project, we have a $400,000, you know, then we can say, we have all these projects that have to get done, and that's where this money is going.
Yeah, the community's just gotta be aware. They would take it.
Yeah.
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 Other than that, do you think that we would have time, October, to look at anything that may be available out there?
Or,
Money.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking for everything I can for Worcester Road.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to USDA?
I know loan money's available,
I just learned that at that meeting
yeah.
at the fairgrounds.
I'd much rather have grant money than loan.
Well, yeah, right.
And
Well, they're-
I believe that Appalachian money can be used for infrastructure.
Yeah,
But you know, what they want, for that money, they want entities to come together.
right, multi-jurisdiction.
Right, and you're gonna score a lot higher with that money doing that. But it's not saying we can't apply for it. But all the guidelines have not been released yet for that funding.
What is it, 500,000 or
No, 500 million.
million? It's still,
Spread over 32 counties.
Right.
You're on the wrong side of the county. Wrong side of the county, girlfriend.
Wednesday, I'm going to Twinsburg to a funding meeting with EPA office up there. Hopefully I come back with buckets full of cash.
Tell them you want a tree.
Yeah.
All right. Nate, do you have the
So,
information you need?
well, I think, I'm trying to think about the timing of everything here. So the plan is, next council meeting, we'll discuss what happens tonight, or was discussed tonight, and then between then and the October 24th meeting, well, between now and the October 24th meeting, you wanna see numbers?
Or do you wanna,
It'd be nice to see numbers.
I guess,
next
I
week.
guess, seeing how we don't have the exact
Yeah,
account number here, how many accounts would, what it would generate, I guess what numbers would you like to see Nate run based on an actual count of accounts? I'm saying, what numbers would you like to see residential, commercial, industrial go to?
or do you not wanna break it down that way? Do you wanna go by usage, or, which is basically gonna be the same thing?
But
I mean-
then, but with a residential account, you go by thousands of gallons, it's gonna fluctuate quarterly based on number of gallons they use. Where I think a flat
Can you scale from what we currently are doing? Just scale it down to,
Whatever that would
you know,
Well,
two or three different levels?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, you go 45 to 15, 20, 25, and 90 down to whatever. You know,
Yeah,
you know, decide what number you want that to be.
I guess we gotta see what, I mean, I think we need choices, not just a,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, you know, do you want to take all three accounts down? Or do you decide that commercial and industrial remain the same and residential takes a bigger break?
Yes.
I mean, there's any number of ways to break this down.
The industrial and commercial are already paying it right now.
When Walmart already paid.
They
But-
use the most.
But you also gotta remember, there's a lot fewer accounts on that end
Yeah.
versus
that's
residential.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, but
But I,
they do use more.
I mean, there's only 64 commercial accounts and only 6 industrial accounts. So there's really not much there versus 1,200 plus on the residential side.
I think the way you have it makes some sense to me, that residential, commercial, and industrial.
and scale it down accordingly for each and see what the numbers.
okay. Sure.
Start at the low, you know, I don't know, what's the low end that you wanna do?
Well, that's the question.
I mean, I think you wanna start relatively low and then move up so that we have something. I mean,
Yeah.
if Nate comes back and says, hey, we only need, over the next year, we only need $100,000 in capital improvements, I know that's not right, but say that's the number, but yet our calculations start at $200,000.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, we can do that.
Millersburg Ice isn't manufacturing ice anymore, are they? No.
No,
They didn't use our water anyways.
They didn't?
They used the
Lucky
well.
eyes. Yeah.
Really? Jeez.
Learn something new every day, don't you?
Yep. Surprise, surprise.
will you be able to have an idea, I mean, that way we can compare and see where we're headed?
Yep.
Anything else, anyone? Thank you for attending.
This more fun
Yeah.
than council meetings.